Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game action quite like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find grills, canopies, jerseys, and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour at undefeatable prices every day. Shop Academy at locations throughout Ohio, including Zanesville, Springfield, and Boardman. Fun can't lose, and neither can you with tailgate gear from Academy, academy.com, Academy Sports and Outdoors. Thank you to Academy for being a part of the show. And thank you to my wonderful man to my right. No, my left. Whatever. Mick Walker on the other side of your screen. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Let's talk, Mick. You've been in Chicago the last few days, and the windy city, if you will, not because of wind. We don't have to have a history lesson there. I hope you had a good time. I hope you ate some good food. And I hope that you made it back safely, which it looks like you did.
Yeah, I mean, I even drove past, I believe it's the Big Ten Office. There's a giant building with a ton of B1Gs on the side of it. So I assume that was it. Didn't get to sit down with Tony Batiti. Maybe next time I'm in town, but did a ton of recruiting visits. Got to see a handful of Ohio State targets, a couple of top guys. So we'll have more on that Lettermen Row in the coming week or so. $1 for your first 7 days. You'll get all that coverage there.
Yeah, we haven't been doing a lot of recruiting stuff here. You've been doing some recruiting. You've been talking about some recruiting stuff, if you will, over with our friend Jeremy Birmingham from Lettermen Row and 10 TV over on that YouTube channel, and that's fine. We're going to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes here. Mick, I don't know if you've heard this. The Buckeyes don't play this week.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's crazy. They don't let them play. They barred them from playing this week.
It's just pretty great. We've been together the past 3 Saturdays. I was looking forward to getting around you guys again this Saturday, and I guess I'll just have to wait a couple weeks because this next Saturday you guys are headed out to Washington.
Yeah, you'll have to do some yard work for your wife. You have to do some chores. I'm going to throw some food into the crock pot and on the grill. I'm going to make some nice tailgate food to sit on my couch. I might even grow roots in my couch, Mick, and just watch football all day. We don't get to do that on Saturdays, which I love going to the Horseshoe every Saturday, full stop. I'm not going to complain about that at all. But it is kind of nice, twice a year to have a Saturday where you just kind of sit, unwind, crack one open, if you will. More on that later, and just watch football. But this is also like a perfect time for Ohio State to be on the idle week because it allowed you to get out on the road and see some recruits. It allowed us to take stock in 3 weeks of Ohio State football, a 3-game sample size for the Buckeyes. I wrote a story over at lettermenrow.com. We're going to talk about it here. And then you guys need to go over to Lettermen Row and see that story for yourself. $1 for your first 7 days over at Lettermen Row.
Or maybe some of you guys will have this in your inbox. For those of you who don't know, we send out a daily newsletter at Lettermen Row, maybe a couple times a day, depending on the day, whether it's a game day or just breaking news. So I think there's a link somewhere around on Lettermen Row where you can find to sign up, get that newsletter in your inbox. That Spencer's 3 certainties and 3 uncertainties of the Ohio State football season. We're in that newsletter today, and we'll talk about it here on the show.
Yeah, 3 certainties and 3 uncertainties about the Buckeyes football program right now. There's a lot that we are certain of, but I had to kind of dwindle it down to 3. Like, I'm not saying Jeremiah Smith is good. That's obviously a certainty. That's like death, taxes, and Jeremiah Smith. But there are 3 certainties that maybe below surface level that we got into for the 3 certainties for Ohio State football. They are that Julian Sayin can lead the Buckeyes as a national title contender. The Ohio State defense is more athletic than it was last year, and that Ryan Day has turned a corner as a head coach. Which of those 3 do you think struck you the most?
I have to say the Ryan Day one. Just looking back on it, I was a little surprised to see it because I think most Ohio State fans, when you look at what Ryan Day needs to do to kind of, I think in their eyes, be scotch-free and just be fully embraced as the guy that we want here until he wants to stop coaching. And that doesn't get decided until we get to this last week in November after Thanksgiving. We've had our turkey and everything. That game, the game, is when we kind of know for sure, or people will have a better feeling on whether or not he's taken the next step, kind of elevated himself. But obviously, like you said, winning a national championship, and obviously, I mean, hiring staff, putting it together to put Texas, who at the time, obviously they've struggled since, but who at the time was the number 1 team in the country. And they just put them in a box for 50 minutes of the game, and they really couldn't do anything. Like Matt Patricia came out of being off the couch or being in the NFL as an assistant and just put one of the best play callers in college football, sat him down and said, here, I'm going to tell you how to play a football game because you're not going to be able to tell me how to do anything. Brian Hartline, obviously, I think there's been some inflections, judgments, kind of decisions on whether or not he's done the job well. I think Ohio, he called a good game, even though there's some missed opportunities. Grambling would throw the GC on that. Texas, they said they played to win the game. They did that. So, but I really do I appreciate your point. I do think many Ohio State fans would probably say that November is when we decide if he's fully leveled up, taken the notch up.
I think the reason that I said that he's turned a corner, and it struck me last week, is when I think Jim Lachey on the radio show, the weekly radio show on Thursday, asked Ryan, what, you got to be happy about this defense right now. And he said, I'm not happy about anything. That seems like such a throwaway line, but that seemed very Saban-ish to me. It seemed very buttoned up. It seemed very unlike Ryan Day to, profess his anger with anything, 2 games into the season with what they're trying to accomplish. But that's the route that he took that. It was a throwaway line. I'm not happy with anything right now. But when you combine that, and maybe I'm overthinking this way too much, but when you combine it with the fact that Ryan talked in the offseason about taking his time and figuring out who he wanted to hire for his offensive and defensive coordinator, and openly talking about, I studied the Nick Saban teams after they won national championships, and how do you continue to stay on that pace to win more of them. And now you look at him saying, I'm not happy with anything, all the way to, we used to complain so much when they would pull CJ Stroud and put Kyle McCord in the game, and they would just make Kyle hand it off the whole time. And then the first couple games of the 2023 season, we're like, hey, maybe if Kyle had thrown a few more passes in the blowouts of Rutgers or the blowout of, name your MAC school that they played, maybe he wouldn't look this way when he got in 2023. And in 2024, Will Howard, goes out of a game in a blowout, and Julian Sand or Devin Brown are in there, and it's just handoff, and then get out of there. Against Grambling, he had the backup quarterbacks throwing passes. Tavian St. Clair threw passes. Lincoln Keenholz threw a touchdown pass on the 1 yard line. Like, they weren't just running the clock out. And so I think Ryan Day is fully understanding now, all of your guys need reps. This is modern college football. I think he understands now, how to be a CEO-style head coach who's not happy about anything right now, but also knows how to find the joy in what he's doing. And also, he has a national championship ring. Like, it does change him a little bit. And so that's where I think that comes from, of why I viewed that as like a certainty. Yes, in some ways he has turned a corner. He has that ring on his finger now. He has, evolved in the way that he calls blowouts and the way that his team operates in blowouts. He's changed in the way that his tone of some things. He's gotten much more honest. I'll tell you that, as somebody who's sat in every press conference he's ever had as a head coach. He's gotten a lot more honest and I'm not saying he used to just lie to us, but like, you get very good, honest assessments from Ryan Day right now, from his press conferences. And I just think he's changed a little bit, and I like it. I fully understand why people would say, I want to see him beat Michigan before I think he's really turned a corner. That's a mental block at this point. We know that from last year. And I fully subscribe to that. Like, he will truly turn a corner if he goes to Ann Arbor and wins this November. But it's a change in him that I've seen here in the last 6 or 7 months that I think people will understand, what we're getting at there.
Yeah, and I think there's power in positive affirmations. And I don't know if he got the recipe during last season or if he always felt like he kind of had it, but he needed the reassurances of it all. But it seems like he's got it now. Like, what he needs to do, how seasons need to operate, what they need, like benchmark standards, everything they need to do along the way. Seems like he's got the perfect idea of it all. Like you said, hey, this is a blowout. Again, I don't want to disrespect Grambling, respect Eddie Robinson, the whole history of that program, but we need to go hang 70 on them because we need to figure some stuff out. And we're going to do that. We're going to play until the fourth quarter. Ohio's going to come in here, and we're going to fight, and we're going to challenge our offense. And it might be a little bit tough, but, we're going to trust our kicker. We're going to trust Jaden Fielding, who's obviously has had his own struggles in Ohio Stadium before, but you're going to get him a couple extra kicks, and you're going to play the Texas game to win. Like, you're not going to try and show something that you're not. You're not going to try and run all over Texas. Yeah, they got outrushed that game, but the one time both teams faced a 4th and goal at a certain point, and one team converted, and that was the team that won, and that's the Ohio State Buckeyes in that situation. The other one that I thought was pretty interesting, and it's weird because everybody's realizing how wrong they were on college football quarterbacks this week because it's kind of an off week, a little bit of a slower week. Oh, DJ Liveway's not that guy. Arch Manning's not that guy. At least through 3 weeks, they haven't been that guy. Then the re-ranking the quarterbacks. I know Josh Pate did it. I think there's been other people that have kind of re-ranked their quarterbacks here, whether it's at Rivals or at other networks. And Julian Sain hasn't really been on many of those. I don't know if you've noticed this. And when I look at that, I go, honestly, I don't disrespect it. Like, maybe you want to put him on there. Maybe you want to wait a bit longer. Either way, I can understand it. But then also I read your point about he has enough to lead Ohio State to the national championship. And I go, yeah, he's got that. So I don't know where that kind of falls or what that means, but whether he's top 10, top 15, top 20, like, he's shown enough to be in the driver's seat of this race car and taking it all the way to hopefully Miami if you're Ohio State.
Yeah, it's been good to watch him. Ohio State asked him to do 3 different things in 3 different games. In the first game, he was just asked to be a game manager. Don't mess this thing up. We're going to beat Texas on the back of our defense. Against Grambling, he was asked to be a superstar and throw the ball all over the place, and he didn't really have to be because Grambling was bad compared to Ohio State, but they let him chuck it around a lot. And I thought against Ohio, they gave him the full plate and said, here, have it. You're going to throw a lot of underneath stuff. You're going to find Jeremiah Smith over the middle a few times on 20-yard curl routes. So I thought it was really impressive, him getting through his progression, getting back to Jeremiah, letting that thing rip in the middle of the field. Hey, we're going to throw a couple posts way down the field. Can you connect on them? Hey, I want to see how you do in a goal line fade. I know that was incomplete. Wasn't the perfect ball, but I liked seeing that from him to see what he could do. So
he can scramble around a little bit too. Obviously, the one he gets tripped up on, the one later he throws the touchdown to Max Clare. Like you said, they put a lot on his plate there. And I think it's weird that we've talked about it again. I'll mention his name one more time. John Hauser, the defensive coordinator at Ohio. I know Spencer's a fan of the Bobcats, appreciates the Bobcats. He's going to be John Hauser will be a Big Ten type defensive coordinator one day. There's no real doubt in my mind. He calls a good enough defense. He understands how to operate. He played it like a lot of other Big Ten teams would have, whether that's Indiana or Nebraska or any of these teams Ohio State could play. We're going to take all our defensive backs. We're going to play them in zone. We're going to keep everything in front of us. And if you, obviously, like we said, they hit the post. Those came later in the game. But for the most part, largely early, was can Julian saying get through progressions and come back to the third, fourth guy, pick up 15 yards, and actually be able to keep moving the chains. And they did that. So all respect to John Hauser, but I think Julian Sain was able to kind of win out in that matchup as well mentally.
So, Mick, we're going to get to uncertainties with this Ohio State team. And there are some of them still, the number 1 team in the country. We still have some questions about them. But first, I got to tell you over about our friends at Modelo. Some things in life are just made for each other. Peanut butter and jelly, macaroni and cheese, Mick Walker and recruiting, and Modelo and college football. If you're listening to this, it means you live and breathe football all season long, even on the off weeks. You know what that makes you? A full-time fan, which means you deserve a Modelo, because football wouldn't be the same without you, the listener, the watcher, the ball knower. Modelo is the official sponsor of the college football playoff. Buckeyes fans, you deserve a Modelo. Go buy a Modelo today. Mick Walker, Spencer Holbrook here. Mick, what are we uncertain of about this team? I've got 3 that were kind of top of mind for the day. We can just roll through them, I guess, a little bit. Who's the best fit at right guard? I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Austin Ward did a great job writing about Tegra Shabola and some of the struggles he's had, and Ethan Onyanwa and the competition that continues to be ongoing there. I just think it's an open question, and there's not much to talk about there because it's up to the coaching staff to figure out which guy is best. Tegra Shabola started 19 games for this team. Ethan Onyanwa started 0. But it's clear that they want to see more from Onyanwa because they keep putting him in there at right guard. Third series of the game, fourth series of the game, second quarter, stuff like that. And the other 2 things that I'm uncertain of, because I could do a long list of these, but I only want to do 3 at a time. The running back pecking order, I don't know if it truly matters. And then the defensive line's ability to generate a pass rush, and if that actually matters. It doesn't really matter until it does. So which of those 3 caught your attention, Mick?
Yeah, you and I have talked about it multiple times post-game, but I think the pass rush is the most confusing, most curious thing I have, because I think Ohio State has been able to generate pass rush. They did it better against Ohio. Obviously, that's a MAC offensive line, so we take that and we throw that kind of caveat in there. But I don't know if they can line up consistently and have their traditional 4-man front of Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, Edric Houston, and Caden McDonald just get pressure with 4. I think they can get pressure with 4, but it's traditionally been when they have to go to kind of a 3-3 defense, or that you bring some of these linebackers close to the line of scrimmage and you have another safety, another linebacker in the box. They can get pressure without blitzing, but it typically involves Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles being a part of the pass rush so far this season. And obviously, I don't know if we'll really get to fully see that until maybe when they go to Champaign here in a couple weeks. Damon Williams, you want to get him on the ground, but that might be a lot of getting him on the ground closer to the sideline or getting him out of the pocket a little bit. Like that's kind of be the game plan with him. And Minnesota, I don't think there's anything there that can truly test you. I don't think PJ Fleck's going to come in trying to sling the ball around in the horseshoe. That's never really been his game plan. So that when you go into Champaign, you go into Memorial Stadium and you face Luke Altmaier, who has good weapons, who's a good quarterback. And I know their offensive line has struggled as well over in Illinois, but like, can you get Luke Altmaier on the ground with 4? Can Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson win? Or do you consistently have to be going to these kind of more exotic, more interesting fronts on 3rd, 4th down when you need pressure? I don't know where that is yet, but like you said, that's my biggest uncertainty of the ones that you kind of highlighted.
Well, that's interesting. Ohio State has athletic defensive ends. They have good defensive tackles. Caden Curry and Caden McDonald have both been awesome. The 2 Cadens. We've got to come up with a nickname for those guys, being 2 Cadens spelled differently. Submit your best in the comments, I guess, what you think they should be nicknamed, because I don't really have anything right now. I do question what Ohio State needs from this front, just because there's a lot of 3 down. There's a lot of stuff where they're moving linebackers around, like you said. There's a lot of confusing coverages to mitigate what they're doing in the pass rush, things like that. So I wonder, and also, there are other smart college football people that I do listen to who like to say things like, who's the best quarterback remaining on the schedule? So if you look at the Ohio State schedule, Damon Williams, obviously a good runner. He's decent as a passer, but I don't think he's something that Ohio State's secondary needs to, shake in their boots about. Drew Aller is a decent passer, but I question his weapons. Even with the restocking of that room and completely redoing it with Trevor Pena and a couple other guys, I think Ohio State feels its secondary is going to be able to win matchups in that game. Luke Altmaier, I think he's a really good college quarterback. I don't know if he has NFL ability. Does he scare you? Bryce Underwood as a passer, as a true freshman against the Matt Patricia defense. You just have to question, what does Ohio State need from this pass rush? They already did it against Texas and were effective-ish against the Texas offensive line and Arch Manning. And I know Arch hasn't been great this year, but Texas is a good team. Some of the best teams in the country. I just don't know what Ohio State's going to need from its passer. So does the defensive line need to get home with 4? I don't know. I really don't know. And I think that's what makes it so uncertain is it's not just can they generate pressure, but do they need to generate pressure? And so, it's just something that's been on my mind the last couple of weeks. And so the off week is kind of a good way to hash that out. The one that I think is the most interesting is the running back pecking order, Mick. Everybody wants to anoint Bo Jackson, and that's fine. If you think Bo Jackson is the best running back on this roster, I will not argue with you. He has been very good in the 2 games that he's played. 2 consecutive 100-yard games against Grambling and Ohio. The bulk of those yards have come in the second half of those games. I will say that.
And obviously, runs too that kind of skew those, like what 50 and 60 yarders, like both games.
64 against Ohio, and that was against the starters, and Ohio State had its starters in the second half because it couldn't pull away from Ohio because it was playing with its food. I don't want here. Jackson's been the best after contact back too. He's earning more playing time because of that, but I don't want people to lose sight of in the same time that Bo was starting to put some things together against Ohio in the second half and have that 64-yard run and show a couple other things in the passing game. I did think Ohio State is starting to figure some things out with James Peoples. Sports Information Solutions, which is a high-end stat database that allows you to sort things by run and by gap and by formation and things like that I've been trying to incorporate into some of the coverage over at lettermenrow.com. They charted James Peoples as having 4 carries for 37 yards on counter. And a lot of that was outside run. A lot of it was outside running, but it was counter. Bo Jackson's success came when they were calling inside zone, duo, different things like that. And so I think and Donaldson has been decent, but I think that Ohio State still would like to get more out of him. What I'm getting at here is I think that they're finding roles for all 3 of these guys and the ability to use them all and call different things for different backs, but you also don't want to pigeonhole them to where teams can know what you're going to do with these backs. And so I wonder if they're going to continue to rev up James Peoples using some different kind of runs that Bo Jackson's not using, and Jackson gets some carries that maybe don't fit Peoples the best. I think they're more trying to find the best fit for each of these backs more than they are trying to put them in an order of which one is the best.
Yeah, and I think like That's the most interesting thing. Everybody wants to talk about, like you said, what's the pecking order? What's the pecking order? Like who's in charge? Who's kind of the face of this run game? Who do we hang our hat on or whatnot? None of us really ask, like, are we sure Ohio State knows what it wants to do with the run game yet? Whether that is, like you said, inside zone, like pulling guards, like more gap stuff, more zone stuff. I don't know what it is yet. And you could probably tell me more, like Ohio State typically does this, Ohio State typically does this. And it's weird because we've faced two opponents now where I don't think Ohio State really had to open up really was trying to open up the playbook a ton on the run game. Obviously, Texas, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Like, it's a different type of thing because they're specifically playing to beat Texas. They had all summer, all off season to game plan, get ready for Pete Kwiatkowski and this Texas defense. So here in 2 weeks, like we go back to that game against whether it's Minnesota maybe or even the one against Illinois. Like, if things get a little bit tighter in the second quarter, like maybe Julian Sand turns the ball over and it's only 7-0, or if it's only 3-0, and Ohio State needs to get the ground game going to give Julian Sand some confidence, sustain a drive, keep the defense off the field type of thing. Are they wanting to rely on, like you said, zone runs with Bo Jackson? Are you wanting to rely on like James Peoples? Or if, hey, we like the zone runs, but Philip Daniels or Taylor Shabola or Luke Montgomery, like they just don't really enjoy block. Like they're not good at blocking these guys consistently doing that type of stuff. We don't really know that yet. So we want to know more about the running backs, but it's really just more about the run game in general because we don't know a lot of in-depth details about how they want to do that with Tyler Bowen and Brian Hartline and all those guys kind of in control.
Yeah. So, I mean, Ohio State is 3-0. Ohio State is the number one team in college football right now, according to both the Coaches Poll and the Associated Press poll. Whatever you think of those, they're number one in a lot of folks' power ratings. They're top 5. If they're not number one, they're in the top 5 of everybody's power ratings. This is a really good football team, but there are still some things that we have questions about. There's still some things that we're learning about this team, but there are certainly things that we are certain of about the number one Ohio State Buckeyes during the idle week. We're going to be back tomorrow to break down not the Buckeyes, actually, but games that matter across college football for the Buckeyes in week 4. We'll give you a little primer on what to watch if you're an Ohio State fan for Saturday. Give some picks as well from our friends over at BetMGM. That's Mick Walker on the other side of the screen. I'm just Spencer Rolberg. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, and thanks for listening. Thanks for being at LettermenRow.com if you're already there. If you're not, go to LettermenRow.com right now. Get $1. Give $1. Get 7 days. Give $1. Get 7 days. And we'll talk about pricing after that. You won't worry about it anyway. That's Mick Walker on the other side of your screen. I'm just Spencer Rolberg. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys tomorrow at Lettermen Row on the Lettermen Row YouTube channel. And we'll see you at LettermenRow.com.